Grace had already thought for a long time. She had known that if she were not shot when the gangsters arrived, she would be faced with her father's suggestion that she return to become a conspirator with him and his gang of thugs and felons, and she did not need any walk to reconsider her response to that. Even though the difference between the people she knew back home and the people she'd met in Dogville had proven somewhat slighter than she had expected. Grace looked at the gooseberry bushes, so fragile in the smooth darkness. It was good to know that if you did not treat them ill, they would be there come spring as always, and come summer, they'd again be bursting with the quite incomprehensible quantity of berries that were so good in the pies, especially with cinnamon. Grace looked at the frightened faces behind the window panes that were following her every step and felt ashamed of being part of inflicting that fear. How could she ever hate them? For what was at bottom merely their weakness? She would probably have done things like those that had befallen her if she'd lived in one of these houses, to measure them by her own yardstick, as her father put it. Would she not, in all honesty, have done the same as Chuck and Vera and Ben and Mrs. Henson and Tom and all these people in their houses? Grace paused, and while she did, the clouds scattered. And let the moonlight through, and Dogville underwent another of those little changes of light. It was as if the light, previously so merciful and faint, finally refused to cover up for the town any longer. Suddenly, you could no longer imagine a berry that would appear one day on a gooseberry bush, but only see the thorn that was there right now. The light now penetrated every unevenness and flaw in the buildings and in the people. And all of a sudden, she knew the answer to her question all too well. If she had acted like them, she could not have defended a single one of her actions and could not have condemned them harshly enough. It was as if her sorrow and pain finally assumed their rightful place. No, what they had done was not good enough, and if one had the power to put it to rights, it was one's duty to do so for the sake of the other towns, for the sake of humanity, and not least, for the sake of the human being that was Grace herself.